So today I'm giving a talk on internet anonymity. I'm going to cover kind of what it means, different ways you can use it, why it's important, and maybe some different tools that you can use to become more anonymous while on the internet. So before we get started, I kind of wanted to make a distinction between two words that are kind of interchanged a lot, anonymity and privacy. So anonymity means wanting to keep your identity hidden, so just hiding who you are, but people can still see what you do. And privacy is hiding what you do, but people can still identify who you are. So what we're going to focus mainly on today is internet anonymity, which is loosely defined as using the internet while protecting the user's identity from third parties. So what are some reasons why people want to be anonymous when they're surfing the web? For some people, they just want more privacy. They don't want people spying on what they do. And I guess that applies more to privacy versus not being anonymous. But if you are anonymous, people can't usually track what you specifically are doing. They might see what you're doing, but they don't know who you are. So it allows you to have more privacy that way. And some people just want more of that. Not everyone does. Not everyone cares. But some people do. For others, it provides safety. For example, like in some countries, people don't have the right to have as much freedom of expression. The countries heavily monitor the internet usage and what they say in public. So being anonymous online allows journalists to publish their stories that might not otherwise get heard, for activist groups to kind of promote their cause without the government finding their real identity and then having repercussions because of that. Another reason why people might want to remain anonymous on the internet is for malicious reasons. If they're selling drugs, or if there's hitmen, or other things like that, or for child porn websites. So there's both good and bad reasons why people would want to remain anonymous on the web. It's become a more highly debated topic recently because on one hand you have the people who are saying that they need more privacy for the masses. They don't want people being spied on unnecessarily. But then on the other hand, there are other people who want to monitor what everyone's doing so that in the few instances where there are people who are using it for wrong purposes, they will get caught. There we go. So a couple things to consider as we go on. I'm going to talk about your browser, what type of browser you use. And there's one or two that I'll recommend later on. Your proxy, how to set that up, and which ones are good, why it's important, how to use a VPN, the benefits of using that, and then other browser extensions and plugins that you could use that'll really benefit you while trying to stay anonymous on the web. Before we go on, just want to note that all these things that I'm going to talk about in just a little bit, they do help with preserving your being anonymous, but it doesn't guarantee complete anonymity. It's almost impossible to be completely anonymous and have complete privacy while on the web these days, especially as technology continues to increase and more stuff happens. There are most decent private Wi-Fi networks can track what sites you've been to. Some of them, like at Iowa State, will still keep track of what sites you go to, what places you'll visit. Sometimes it'll pop an alert if you go to a site that maybe they don't like, and then they can ban you from the network. Also, when you're surfing the web, you'll sometimes be able to have access to places, to websites that aren't normally allowed, such as the dark web, and other places. And you have to accept the risk of possibly encountering malware, or be willing to have to deal with it if you come across it and it gets installed on your computer, because the places you can go to aren't generally monitored. Monitor might be the right word, I don't know, but they're not kept track of as much. So there's a lot of places, a lot of things out there that you can come across that are good for your computer. And then lastly, you're responsible for what you decide to do. We talked earlier about the different reasons why people would want to be anonymous on the web. Just you are responsible for what you decide to do, and the choices you make, the places you decide to go. All right, let's go. So first let's talk about the browser. And yeah, don't use Chrome. Chrome sucks. It's highly suggested that you use some form of private or incognito browser. And incognito doesn't mean going into incognito mode on Chrome, because even though that might get rid of your history and clear your cache, it's still, like the browser will still kind of keep track of and send information back to the company about what places you do go. So it's still not the most secure. Normal browsers in private mode, they might not cache your internet data. Yep. And they still send the data to companies. One good browser that's probably one of the most commonly used browsers for trying to be anonymous is Tor. What it does, it protects your identity and your communications for your computer. And it's also known as the onion router. And how it works is when you go onto the internet, so you open up a Tor browser, and then it sends the request to multiple different nodes, different Tor nodes in different locations, either around the country or around the world. And what that'll do is, well, after it sends it through those nodes, it eventually comes out of an exit node somewhere, and then it gives you access to the server or the internet. And what that does, it makes it incredibly hard to track where you are, where your location is of your computer. It's not 100% anonymous. There was a case, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago. I don't remember how far back, but they tracked the leader of the Silk Road, a drug company on the black market, on the dark web. Not bad. And even though he used Tor or another browser, they were still able to track back. So it's not completely anonymous. It also has its own vulnerabilities. I believe last October, they announced that there was a vulnerability that they found. And what it did is it actually leaked your IP address to anyone else who wanted to see it. So I believe they patched that up. They wouldn't give out details for it, but yeah, no browser is going to be 100% secure, not going to be able to completely give you privacy, protect your identity. But yeah, it is still a very good one to use out there. Next we'll talk about Tails. And Tails, what it is a live operating system that is Linux-based. And live pretty much means you can have it on a USB or a DVD. You can plug it into your computer, and as soon as you turn it on, it gives you the option to just run the operating system from your USB. So it's pretty efficient. Like, if you want to carry it around someplace, you don't want to have it directly on your computer, but you still want to use it from time to time. It's pretty useful. It comes with, well, several built-in applications kind of listed at the bottom. Well, those are the ones at the bottom, those are for encryption, but I was looking on their website, and they have tons and tons of applications that they use. I'll include a link at the end for anyone who wants to go there. But one thing that it does use, it uses Tor for most, if not all, of its connections to the network or for servers. It also offers options for encryption, which is pretty helpful. A couple examples down here are Lux. What that does, you install it and use it to encrypt your information on devices. So for example, that USB, if you happen to store anything on there, it'll encrypt it so that no one else can just open it and use it. I don't know how it's pronounced, but GNUPG, NUPUG, I don't know. That one is responsible for email and data encryption, so you have secure communication with everyone else. Then you have GNOME, screen, keyboard, so instead of typing, you use the one on the screen. Even though that might be really annoying, it really helps with keyloggers and stuff, so if you happen to have one on your computer, it'll also protect against that. And there's multiple others. Like I said, there's a huge list on their website if you want to take a look at that. All right, now we'll talk about Proxy a little bit. For those who don't know what a proxy is, it's basically a service that you use instead of connecting directly to an internet or browsing server. And so basically it just kind of sits between your browser and the web and kind of dictates, like, does little jobs and tasks in between. Many different types, many different uses. One really good benefit of them, which I think most of them do, but I'm not sure, is they mask your IP address. So it kind of hides your real one from anyone else who might be trying to find it, and it gives you like a little temporary one. It also is good for efficient web browsing, so it'll take care of like any little cache requests that the browser might have. It'll take care of those so your browser doesn't have to do it, and the proxy takes care of it instead, so faster performance, which is really awesome. They can also protect, certain ones can protect against malware. So for example, like the firewall proxy. So those are also good if you're surfing the web, you're going to other websites, you don't want to get malware. It's not going to be 100% effective, but it will help. So one example of one that was recommended, I heard around, was Proxy. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And it's produced by, it's a project from the Software in the Public Interest, SPI, and it's a non-catching web proxy with advanced filtering, so kind of also filters out some of those third-party requests for information about your computer. So that one's a really good one to use. All right, so let's talk a little bit about VPNs. Most of you, I'm going to assume all of you know what a VPN is. It's a virtual private network. And what it does is it sets up a kind of theoretical encrypted tunnel around your traffic as it comes to and from your computer. So anything that goes on with your computer that has to connect to the internet or to a server, it's surrounded by an encrypted kind of tunnel, so anyone who's trying to see in won't be able to. So it adds another layer of security while you're trying to connect to the internet. It also masks your IP address. I think a lot of them do, if not all. So added security there, added privacy. It's also harder to track if you use VPN servers in different locations. So if you have a VPN, but the server is stationed somewhere else, like in the middle of the Pacific or in Germany or something like that, and people are trying to track your location, they will instead be able to think, oh, this person's in Germany or this person's way out in the Pacific. Why would they be there? So it kind of protects your location a little bit better, which is really nice. You do have to be careful when you're trying to find a VPN. I wasn't able to find one in time to add on here to suggest. A lot of them nowadays are claiming to be anonymous, but they aren't. So for example, like they'll say that they don't log your information, but in the fine print it'll actually say that they do take information and send it back to the company. So, or other times they'll say that they don't log it, but then they won't specify what they do and don't log, and they'll just leave it at that. So you need to be careful which ones you use. Maybe do a little research. Again, sorry I don't have an example one that you can use. But yeah, VPNs are another added layer of being anonymous and protecting your privacy and your information. Okay, now AdNauseam. This is something that was recommended by a friend of mine, and I looked into it, and it's pretty good. What it is, it's a browser extension, and it protects, in a way, it protects users from advertising networks. So for just like added spam and stuff that'll pop up, like pop-up ads and everything. So say you go to a website and you have a bunch of ads just everywhere. What it'll do is it'll automate all the ad clicks. So it'll act like it's clicked all the advertisements. Now it won't actually, but it'll act like it does. And what that does is whatever third parties are listening in or getting your information, they will get this huge stream of just a ton of ad requests, however many there are, and so they won't be able to pinpoint what ads you like, what ads you don't like, and it'll just see this huge noisy stream of information coming in. So, and it sends this to the third parties, and it kind of just, it protects, like what stuff you are interested in actually, and it also kind of is like a, kind of a way to fight against all the ad companies that are putting stuff out there by sending them a bunch of noise. So, interestingly enough, this was removed from the Google store, and Google actually added this. They did something to Chrome so that if you did have it installed, next time you opened it, it would not be there. And even today, if you were to install, like add it to Chrome, if you close it and then open it up, it'll be gone, because Chrome, they said it was because they didn't want users to get malware, and they didn't want people like adding extensions that were actually bad, but we'll just leave it at that. Moving on. Another plugin actually that's really good that I found was called HTTPS Everywhere plugin. And HTTPS uses secure sockets layer, SSL. So kind of like a VPN, it only uses it between like select sites that you visit for those that are HTTPS. It creates an encrypted tunnel between you and the server and sends the information through that. A VPN, on the other hand, will cover everything, send everything through an encrypted message. Yeah, and so what this plugin does, HTTPS Everywhere, is it forces the browser to go into the SSL version of any website you go to. And if you can't, I don't believe it'll let you go to that site. So it kind of forces you to use the secure version of any website you visit. And most websites, for the most part, will support both versions, so the SSL and the non-SSL version. Yeah, so it's another way to keep what you do anonymous to anyone who might be trying to see in. Lastly, some other precautions, just general safety things, especially if you're on public computers or you're trying to protect your information. Don't log into personal accounts, even if you are in Tor or in a VPN. If you're giving your personal information to someone who might happen to recognize it, or someone can use that information to track down where you are. So don't log into anything like personal bank accounts or anything else while you're in a VPN, trying to remain anonymous, especially in public computers. Use a separate account, so if you're like surfing or you're trying to, if you need like a user, like a username and password, sometimes it's good to have an alternate account so that they can't track it to you. And so that's another measure. Also, clear your cache and history on public computers if you're not able to get the Tor browser or some of the other things. And also, one thing I didn't mention earlier, but check your computer settings, because a lot of the time, I know this did it with Windows, when you start it up and you're first setting up your computer, it'll like make it seem like, it'll ask you if your computer can send back information for them, so that they can enhance your experience with their product. And they make it really hard for you to be able to find the button that says all pass. So you can go into your settings on like your browsers so that they doesn't send the information back. Yeah, just check either for your operating systems or for your browsers. It's really good to check those. Make sure it's not sending information that you don't want them to have. So in summary, out of everything we've covered, main points to hit. It's good to be knowledgeable about what browser you use. Again, Tor is a really good one. I know there's other ones out there, but that one at least is, I think, pretty reliable. Set up a proxy for your browser. Use a good VPN. Again, you might want to do your research on that before you just take one. Maybe look at the stuff they actually do send back. Check your settings on everything, literally. And then also, I know I've mentioned lots of different software or browsers and stuff. The more of those that you use, the more added layers of security and privacy you will have, and the better it'll be for you. All right. that is all that I have for now. I realize it was short, but anyone have any questions, anything I need to clarify or go over again? Yeah?
How tall are you?
How tall am I?
You said you're short.
I didn't say that.
You did.
Did I? I'm 5'7", for anyone who wants to know. Any other questions? All right, we'll leave it at that then.